guys, and welcome back to the Cruel Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula 1. The Monaco Grand Prix weekend has come and gone, and it might not have been the most exciting race, but a few strategic battles up and down the field once again, and a qualifying which once again proved, get your fucking lap in early. That's what that showed, didn't it? Once again this weekend. How many times have we seen it? And a lot of drivers came unstuck because of it. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points over their race weekend if they do particularly well. And if they do particularly badly, I can go all the way down to 0. But bonus points are available if something extra special happens. And minus points are on offer if you do extra special efforts, but in a bad way. So as always, we're going to kick things off with the race winner, Max Verstappen. Inherited the pole position effectively after Charles Leclerc was unable to start due to a gearbox issue or driveshaft issue after he slammed it into the wall in qualifying despite taking the pole lap. He thought he pushed too hard and crashed. We'll get onto him in a moment though. So that meant that, of course, Max Verstappen from P2 on the line managed to cut across and squeeze ahead of Valtteri Bottas. It was tight, but he made it work. And then from there pretty much led every lap of the race. So it was just an all-round good race. He didn't have to push, and when Bottas had his issues in the pits, it meant that he got an even bigger gap to the car behind, which was then Sainz, and he could just take it steady, couldn't it? It was just nothing he could do to really. He didn't want to push, he didn't need to push, and he just stayed there in the lead and won the race. It was a cut and paste, job done, thank you very much, I'll take those 25 points please. And Max Verstappen and Red Bull clawed some precious points back over Mercedes and, of course, Lewis Hamilton for the drivers and constructors battles. And they've taken the lead in both now. Madness to think that, isn't it? But it's just it's a pendulum effect, isn't it? It's going to swing one way and it's going to swing back the other way, and whoever comes out on top thoroughly deserves it. But Max Verstappen this weekend is going to be a full 10 points. The Master of Monaco now, I'm going to call him. He's had some pretty rotten luck in the last few years around here. Some of it his own doing, mainly his own doing actually, and picking up time penalties which knocked him off the podiums, etc. So it's his first ever podium around Monaco, and it comes in the style of a win. So well done to Max Verstappen. A full 10 points is thoroughly deserved to you. Well done, Max. And in second place is Carlos Sainz. What a fantastic drive by Carlos, and what a fantastic qualifying effort by him as well. Ferrari looking incredibly on pace during Saturday, and on Sunday fundamentally delivered a solid result. Of course, he did benefit from his teammate not starting the race and Bottas having the pit stop issue, which knocked him out of the race as well, elevated him up from P4 into P2. But you have to drive it and you have to keep it clean and tidy. His teammate made a mistake in qualifying which could have cost Sainz a better grid position. I'm not sure it would have actually affected him that much, maybe P3 instead of P4. But apart from that, I think fundamentally Sainz started roughly where he should have started. But in the race it was an impeccable performance nonetheless by Carlos Sainz. I think he drove a solid drive there. I especially like the bit where they got to around 2.5 seconds with Max and he's like, I'm going to turn up the pace, see if Max is doing all he can do, and if not, I'll just back off again. And Sainz turned up the pace and Max just drove off into the distance once again, pulling the lead out by 7 seconds, something like that. So Sainz just backed off again, but he gave it a try, didn't he? So fair play to him. And so for Carlos Sainz, it's another full 10 points. I think he's done really well in that Ferrari. He's had a few scruffy races, a few silly incidents here and there in that Ferrari car, but finding his feet now and fundamentally a podium finish in Monaco is going to be a massive boost of confidence to him, and I hope he carries it forward for the rest of the season. Well done, Carlos. And then it's time for Lando Norris, once again proving how fantastic is he doing this year. What a phenomenal drive once again. Again, another driver to benefit, of course, from Bottas's issues and Leclerc not starting the race. But we can't keep going on about these things. This is racing, this is what happens. And he was there to pick up the pieces. Drove really, really well. Struggled in the last 15, 20 laps, somewhere around there, where Sergio Perez reeled him in, but ultimately couldn't get past. And then in the last few laps of the race, Norris ended up building a gap again as obviously Perez had pushed too hard and wore his tyres out. Such is Monaco. You can get behind a car and stay behind a car for all race and never get a chance to overtake. It's a tight beast, but you have to put yourself in that position to stay there, don't you? And Norris did just that. He started P3 effectively, and he finished P3. So well done to Lando Norris. And when I mean starter P3, I know he didn't start P3, you know, but he inherited those places. He got there and he stayed there. So well done to Lando for that. And again, it's another full 10 points. I can't criticise any of the podium finishers this race weekend. Monaco really sorts out the men from the boys, so I might be looking as if I'm being incredibly generous to everyone, but believe me, we're going to get incredibly cruel as we get further down the order, because, like I say, it's a pure division, this race, as to who is good and who is weak and who needs sorting out and addressing. We're going to get to them in a moment. But well done to Lando Norris. It's a 10-point for you. Next up is Sergio Perez, and a really lonely starting grid position there, down in P9. Once again, elevated up to P7 with issues. I'm not going to keep dragging on about it. But then a masterclass strategic pit stop by Red Bull there. Phenomenal to manage to leapfrog ahead of Gasly, Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Popped him into P4. He set the fastest lap for quite a while as well, trying to hunt down Lando. Got on the back of him, couldn't overtake him. So ultimately, yes, his lap was potentially hampered once again by the fact that Leclerc crashed in qualifying, and that's why he started so far down. But once again, like I keep saying, it was the qualifying lap, it was the first lap that got it. So get out there and set your fucking laps. Don't just put, I'll just put in a banker and I'll come out later, because your later laps, as we've seen, wind can change direction, you can have a yellow flag, you can have a red flag. It's happened a load of times this season already. It's happened once again around the streets of Monaco. Get your lap in early. So for that reason, Sergio Perez, a phenomenal drive, mainly a strategic masterclass by Red Bull, but nonetheless, you have to put yourself in those positions, don't you? Perez had to be out there on those tyres for as long as he was at the first stint to leapfrog and overcut the other cars, so he had to put the pace in. He had to put the pace in. Would Albon have been able to do it? Probably. But I believe more Perez this time around really assisted Red Bull in making that decision to overcut rather than just copy everyone else. Because fundamentally, we know how good Perez is on tyres. So for that reason, it's going to be 8 points for Perez. I think he turned a dirty qualifying into a fantastic race. And yeah, thoroughly deserving of 8 points there. But of course, can't be a perfect 10. His teammate went and won it. So there you go. Next up, Sebastian Vettel. Here he is. Here he is. We've found something. I'm not even going to sing the song that I usually sing. Or shall I for prosperity, because I forgot to do it last time around. You spin me right round, baby. But he didn't. He didn't. He didn't spin. He didn't crash. He didn't have any offs. And he drove an impeccable race. A fantastic strategic masterclass by Aston Martin as well. They pulled a Red Bull effectively and were best of the B teams, really. And Sebastian Vettel, here he is in P5, managing to get ahead of course, Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton. Losing out to Sergio Perez, but of course, a Red Bull ultimately faster car. And yeah, a fantastic drive by Vettel. It's nice to see him up here, isn't it? He got into Q3, a solid qualifying, P7 I think it was, on the grid, on the road, and then elevated up to P5. Phenomenal. Great effort. So for that reason, Sebastian Vettel is 10 points to him as well. I love to see it. I love to see Vettel doing well. That's going to be a great boost of confidence to him. His first points of the season. He's been driving shite for the most part already. But this time, it's a boost of confidence, and this is what we need to see. So I always praise the drivers when they have a good race. Yes, assisted by strategy once again, but that is the nature of Monaco, and this is how we have to judge it. This is it. This is how I score things. It's how it has to be. So for Sebastian Vettel, 10 points as I mentioned. Phenomenal effort. Well done to him. Can we carry this on, please, Sebastian? Because I do like taking the piss out of you, but at the same time, I don't. So please, sort your act out. Let's get some more points on the board in future races. And I'm going to look forward to praising you rather than slagging you off. Up next, it is Pierre Gasly, P6. Once again, phenomenal effort, qualifying 6th, finishing 6th. He should have really been 4th, you'd like to think, with the problems ahead. But the pit stop strategy didn't work out well for him. He kept Hamilton behind him though, so that's fair enough for that. Great effort there. And it's a big points haul for AlphaTauri. The best of the season, I believe. P6, 8 points on the board there, so good effort by them. Fundamentally, a solid race. It wasn't much, it wasn't anything special. You know, he nearly got Vettel out of the pit lane exit there, didn't he? There were a side-by-side pit lane exit, and then the cameras decided, oh no, we don't need to show you that, we'll show you a replay of Stroll. And then what happened? We'll show you a replay of the replay, and then we'll put a replay over that, because that is how fantastic Formula 1 is. You try and watch something, you can't see it live, you try and watch a replay, they'll cut over that replay with another replay, so you can't watch the replay. Great stuff! But ultimately, that's not Pierre Gasly's fault. And I've gone off on a tangent once again. It's 9 points to Pierre Gasly. Solid drive by him. Again, it's all made up in qualifying. He had a phenomenal qualifying first lap. First flying lap, he'd have probably tumbled down and everyone else done better. But they didn't. They didn't do better. They did shite, and that's the top and bottom of it. So well done to Pierre Gasly. 9 points on the board to you. And next up is Lewis Hamilton. Oh dear, it wasn't a great weekend by him at all, was it? And the thing is, I'm giving him this score based on the fact that I think he'd have been 5th anyway. I don't think he'd have been inside the top 3. in qualifying. The first lap was scruffy, he touched the wall. The second lap was scruffy, he touched the wall. He then aborted it, and he was coming round for the third lap. I don't know if he actually got through a sector at all, but if he did, it wasn't purple, because it was Max that set that one. And he just looked uncomfortable in the car, didn't he? It didn't look like it was going to be a great qualifying by him anyway. But as mentioned, he'd probably elevated up to 5th. But instead, the red flags came out, and he was 7th. So that was that. It was a really, really poor qualifying effort there by Hamilton. He just didn't feel comfortable in the car. In the race, you can't overtake. You can't do it. The strategy was wrong by Mercedes, fundamentally. Pitting him early. Should have left him out there a lot longer. Could have got up to as high as P4 like Perez did. But there he is, down in P7, where he started. Big shame for Hamilton. Cost him points in the championship. Cost Mercedes a lot of points in the constructors as well. So yeah, Hamilton though did pit and score the fastest lap. So he had a pit stop on everyone else behind him. So that was fair enough. Take the chances while you can. Put the soft tyre on. And picked up that extra point, which could be crucial. Could be crucial come the championship end. But for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, it's just 4 points. Yeah, you know, team error with the strategy and whatnot. He could have got up to as high as P4 like Perez. But fundamentally, he didn't look comfortable in the car all weekend, did he? Especially that qualifying effort. It was a shame. It was a shame, but there you go. That is the nature of the beast. And I'm sure he'll come out fighting in Baku, and we're going to see another fantastic battle between Max and Lewis. That's going to be a phenomenal battle. I'm convinced Baku is going to be chaos once again, and it's going to involve Max and Lewis having a ding-dong battle up front. That's what I'm predicting, and there we go. So for now, just 4 points for Lewis Hamilton. And then we come to Lance Stroll, and I don't know whether to praise him or slate him off. It was a fantastic P8 finish in the end, fundamentally going so long on the tyres that he just managed to get a gap to Ocon, who was really struggling towards the end there, wasn't he? He was like a bloody moving boat. It was just too wide for anyone to overtake him, but it was going so slow, it was unbelievable. So yeah, Stroll benefited from that, but it was a scruffy race, wasn't it? We saw quite a lot of replays of him nearly flinging it off into the wall, bouncing over the sausage curbs and doing in his way along. He was put under investigation for maybe crossing the pit lane exit. He didn't cross it, he just touched the line, didn't he? Calm your tits. But I think they're trying to penalise him for something, because like, not normally Stroll's crashed by now. What do we do? What do we do? Oh, say he left the pit lane line. Say he crossed the pit lane line, yeah? Well, he didn't. Yeah, but he touched it. Well, we'll put it under investigation. And fundamentally, there you go. So yeah, Stroll, impressive performance. First double points finish for the year for Aston Martin. A well-earned rake of points there for Aston Martin with P8 and P5, so fantastic result for them. And Stroll, I'm going to award him 7 points. Might be a little bit conservative, that, but overall I think it was a scruffy way how he got to that result. Yes, it was a good result, but it could have maybe been better had it not been for the scruffiness of his early start of the race especially. And next up in P9 is Esteban Ocon. As mentioned, the moving marina. He was one of the yachts, wasn't he? He just wasn't in the Marina Bay. He was just loving his life and just driving that boat round the circuit. It was a tub of lard, that thing, wasn't it? He was struggling pretty much from the first pit stop. So after the first pit stop, he just lost all his pace and just got a gaggle of cars behind him. No one could do anything about it. I was rooting for the driver behind him, who we'll get to in a moment, but fundamentally couldn't make the move. So for Esteban Ocon, the Alpine, a good qualifying, solid P11 I believe it was, and finishing P9 on the road. So well done to him for that. And for that reason, it's going to be 7 points again. Again, a great race, a good result. I think he got maybe the maximum he could out of the Alpine car. I think he should have finished ahead of Stroll fundamentally, but the car obviously was struggling towards the end there. Could have been a technical issue as well, so I don't want to be too harsh on the scoring. But again, just how he got those couple of points was a bit of a mess. So that's the reason for it, but I'm not slagging him off by any stretch of the imagination. And that's why it's a solid 7 for Esteban Ocon. And then we come to Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian stallion, picking up 1 crucial solitary championship point for the Alfa Romeo team. That's 1 point on the board, and they can't take it away from him, because if they try and disqualify Giovinazzi for something, there's Raikkonen behind him. So fantastic effort by Alfa Romeo, picking up P10 and P11 ultimately in this race. But yeah, I just wanted him to get past Ocon. I really did. He'd had a solid qualifying there, qualifying in P10, getting the car into Q3. Phenomenal effort for that. And in the race, I was just willing him, because I just knew he had the pace to stay within the window for Stroll. When Stroll pitted, so I was like, come on, Giovinazzi, get past Ocon, and then you can be within the window. You can get P8 here. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. It was P10 instead of P8. And for that reason, I'm going to award him 9 points. So, yeah, it wasn't a perfect 10. I was thinking of a perfect 10, but I really, really wanted him to get past Ocon. But I don't want to take anything away from a fantastic weekend Giovinazzi has had. A Q3 appearance, running around in the points for the majority of the race and picking up 1 point at the end, which I think Alfa Romeo are going to get more as the season progresses. Don't get me wrong, I think they're certainly going to be point scorers more regularly because they're always finishing around 11th and 12th anyway. But I think this is a crucial point to get them out of the window with the Williams and Haas drivers now. So they've got to really do something to get above that. So it was a crucial point. I think they're going to get more anyway, but that has just made a little bit of a safety net for the Alfa Romeo team to keep P8 in the constructors there. So well done to Antonio. 9 points to you. And as mentioned, just outside of those World Championships points was Kimi Räikkönen, out in Q2, finishing P14, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong with that. But nonetheless, finishing P11 in the end, benefiting, as mentioned, once again from the retirements up front. We know all about those. And yeah, P11, it was solid, wasn't it? It was on the back of Giovinazzi, who was on the back of Ocon, and Räikkönen was sort of just watching Ricciardo behind as well. So he was sort of like stuck in the middle of everyone. He didn't obviously need to attack his teammate. They wanted the point, so fair enough for that. And Räikkönen, a good race, a solid 7, I believe that's worth. I think it was a great drive, but ultimately, Antonio out-qualified, out-raced you, and Antonio picked up the point, but I don't want to take anything away from Räikkönen. As mentioned, they're finishing around the 11th, 12th area anyway, so he finished where the Alfa Romeo is worthy of it, but fundamentally, Giovinazzi just did a better job. So well done to Räikkönen, a solid 7. And next up is, of course, Daniel Ricciardo.
Palm of the week, you hot, sexy fruitcakes.
And there you have it. Palmer of the week for Daniel Ricciardo. And you can't blame me, can you? And you can't blame Palmer for popping up there. You definitely can't. I call him Mr. Monaco. I was expecting everything. So I was expecting a podium from him. If not a top 5 at the very best, if the McLaren wasn't capable of it. And here he is finishing P12, getting lapped by his teammate. And Lando Norris up there in P3. What a shame, Daniel. What's gone wrong? I was singing your praises not one race ago, and now it's all come unstuck, hasn't it? So, yeah, a strange one. He's struggling to get to grips with the McLaren, he says, but we had a strong outing not so long ago, and now we're struggling around your favourite track. Oh, I don't know. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's just Palmer of the Week for Daniel Ricciardo. And then we come to Fernando Alonso, and a Q1 exit. Oh, not great, is it? Q1 exit, and then was out the points for the majority of the race. Decided to go long, but not as long as Stroll, but it didn't really matter because Alonso wasn't going to get points anyway unless something crazy happened up front. And here he is, down in P13 in the end. And yeah, for Alonso, it's just going to be 4 points on the board. I can't really say much about it. Strategy played a part in maybe getting ahead of a Williams or two. I'm not quite sure. I can't really remember what was happening down there, to be honest. But there was so much happening in the mid-pack, you know, for that final point. Alonso was like 20 seconds behind that battle, so that really shows you how Alonso's race had come undone pretty much from the get-go. So, yeah, pole qualifying around Monaco doesn't lead to a good race, and here he is, just with 4 points on the board, finishing down in the unlucky for some P13. So, Alonso, outshone by your teammate once again. What can I say? And then we come to George Russell, another Q2 appearance, finishing it in P15, so the last of the runners in the Q2 session, but nothing to be unexpected. And in the race, P14 in the end, it wasn't really anything special. He was ahead of Latifi for the most part of the race. Latifi elected to go longer on the stint, so that put Russell behind, but it didn't really make much difference. Russell was ultimately finishing ahead. So, yeah, again, Russell, a good race. Difficult to judge how his pace really was in comparison to everyone else. And, you know, just did the best job he could with the car he had, I think, is the most fair point I can give him. So for that reason, it's going to be 7 points on the board for Russell, mainly for his qualifying appearance, because the race was just very lackluster. He got no one around him to race with particularly, apart from his teammate and Tsunoda, and he finished ahead of those. So there you go. So 7 points to George Russell. And as mentioned, Nicholas Latifi finishing behind him in P15. So an okay race weekend by Latifi, but once again, knocked out in Q1. Didn't really look to have any ambition of getting into Q2. And in the race, just okay, but he did finish ahead of Tsunoda. So for that reason, I'm going to award Nicholas Latifi 5 points on the board, which is a generous 5 for me, because I wasn't really expecting to score him any. But, you know, a shunt in practice I'm aware of. I'm allowing a shunt. I'll allow a shunt at Monaco. And not as quick as your teammate. Gives him a couple of points less, but ultimately I was expecting him to have a crash in the race and it didn't happen. So for that reason, yeah, 5 points on the board for Nicholas Latifi. Probably a generous 5, but difficult to judge where the Williams were. And then, as mentioned, finishing ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, I was tipping him to be good by now. I can't believe he's not delivering as I thought he would. What a shame, out in Q1, and then in the race, it cost him. It cost him the race. That qualifying cost him the race. And yeah, he finished ahead of a couple of asses and then a couple of DNF'd cars, which is just, what can you do? You know, he didn't gain anything, did he, from that? So, yeah, P16, started there, finished there. Out here, that's it, he's out. So that's just 3 points to Tsunoda, and I think that's a generous 3 at that. But what a shame. I really, he's got to be getting up there soon, hasn't he? Otherwise they're going to chuck him out. They're going to chuck him out. I can feel it now. It's just, I always knew there'd be a lull with him. I said this, didn't I? I've always said it. Bahrain will be good because he's had so much testing there. He's been to the circuit before. He'll struggle for a couple of races and then he'll be back up to pace. I was thinking Spain would be good, and it's not happened, and it's not happened here. And oh no, Yuki. So just 3 points to Yuki Tsunoda. Oh dear. And then we come to Nikita Mazepin. I was going to have a song for him. I've not got a song for him. I can't believe I'm doing this, but he didn't do bad, did he? Can we all just appreciate that for a moment? He didn't do bad. Who was the one that crashed twice and couldn't make qualifying? And here he is, finishing ahead of that driver that crashed twice and couldn't qualify. He didn't do bad. He didn't do a bad job. And as always, I have to praise drivers when they have a good race, and it's something I didn't think I'd see would happen to Nikita Mazepin all year. But here we are at Monaco, where we all predicted the memes of him going into the swimming pool and down into the ocean, and it didn't happen. We all thought it was going to be a serious incident, he'd cause a serious incident, or have a big crash himself on numerous occasions, myself included. We didn't think he'd get out of the way of blue flags. He did with ease, he got out of the way. And then he finished ahead of his teammate. Unbelievable stuff. So for Nikita Mazepin, I'm scoring him points. It's going to be 5 points on the board. And this is the thing. I never discourage a driver when they do well. And I think a middle of the road 5 for where that Haas is a fair score. So well done to Nikita Mazepin. I didn't think I'd ever be saying that. And then we come to Mick Schumacher.
Pam of the week, you bastards.
Oh, Mick. Oh, Mick. Where did it all go so wrong? We've gone from hero to zero, haven't we? We've had 2 good races. We've come to Monaco. We were taking the piss out of your teammate, and it's you that fundamentally didn't deliver. We had a crash in FP1, we had a crash in FP3, which meant you couldn't qualify. You started last, you did get ahead of your teammate, and then something happened which we didn't see, where you were a couple of seconds ahead of Mazepin, and then you fell to like 8 seconds behind him, and you were behind him for the rest of the race. What a shame. So yeah, I'm afraid it is just Palmer of the Week, and for the first time this season it's for more than one driver. So yeah, making an appearance once again, Palmer of the Week for Mick Schumacher. And then we come to the first retirement on this list, which meant he was the last in the race, although technically he was the only retirement because the other driver was a DNS. But the DNF was for Valtteri Bottas, and I gave Valtteri the Scarborough warning last time, didn't I? I said, Valtteri, book your ideas up or I'm disqualifying you. Well, I couldn't disqualify him this time around because he had a good qualifying, better than his teammate, of course. He could have potentially got up there a little bit more as well, couldn't he? I was thinking P2 for Valtteri. Fundamentally, he started P2 after Charles didn't start the race. And Valtteri then was just keeping second. He was always just going to be second, wasn't he? He fell away from Max Verstappen. And then his front right wheel decided, I don't want to part company. I'm quite happy being a soft. I will identify as a soft tyre from now on. Cross-threaded wheel nut, pulled all the threads off, stripped the threads off. The wheel wasn't coming off. and he was out. That was it, a retirement for Valtteri Bottas, proving that the luck is never there with Valtteri, is it? So, yeah, even when he's out and doing well and doing a better job, I won't say well, but doing better than Hamilton, it still all comes undone for him. So, it's the middle of the road 5, which is what I do for every retirement. I can't judge his race because I didn't see the ending of it. He did pick quite early, so I think he'd have maybe finished 3rd behind Sainz, but ultimately, I didn't know, I didn't see it, it didn't happen. So yeah, it's the middle of the road, 5 points for Valtteri Bottas. Some encouraging signs there, but fundamentally I still think he's shite. But I can't disqualify him. And then last, but by no means least, is of course the DNSer. It's Sha-La-La.
Palmer of the week. I'm selling burgers out the back of a van now.
Oh, and it's another Palmer of the week. We've had a hat-trick. Has that ever happened before? I don't know. Is it deserved? Absolutely. Of course it's deserved. What were you doing, Charles? What were you doing? You had a great lap there for pole position. You probably wouldn't have kept it in all fairness had it not been for the crash. I'm not saying the crash is on purpose. For God's sake, it wasn't, as we've seen here. You don't hit the wall that hard to keep a pole position. You just knock your wing off. Or you just have a spin and cause a yellow flag. You don't do that, and that's what he did. So yeah, Charles Leclerc, another Palmer of the week, and it's thoroughly deserved because he threw it all away, fundamentally. Yes, the team might have not elected to change a gearbox, but they're saying it might have been a drive shaft as opposed to a gearbox. We don't know. But fundamentally, yes, you know, Ferrari should have just changed everything that they need to change and take the 5-place grid penalty. But the responsibility lies with Sha-La-La, I'm afraid, and that's the top and bottom of it. So there you go, Charles. It's Palmer of the week for you, my friend. So there you have it, guys. That was the roundup of the Monaco Grand Prix Cruel Room edition. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any too high, any too low? What did you think to all those Palmers? Unbelievable stuff. As always, a massive thank you to Mushy Gaming and to F1 Games PlayStation for all they do in helping this series be what it is. And the results of the Cruel Room Championship updated are on screen now. And there you go. Is your favourite at the top? Is he tumbling down the order based on this weekend's performance? It's a close-knit thing, is this Cruel Room Championship, and anyone can win it. So don't think just because they're at the bottom, unless the Mazepin, means that they can't win, because they potentially can, because I can do anything I like. So as always, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll appreciate all your comments, thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. I look forward to responding to all of you, because I love you guys. And thanks a lot for watching, and much love.